Welcome to the From Imposter to Empowered podcast. I'm your host, Jill Perrick, mindset coach and imposter syndrome expert, and I'm here to tell you that imposter syndrome isn't a life sentence. It's just a dysfunctional way of thinking. If you feel like your ideas are unoriginal, that your message isn't necessary or important, or like you're a complete and total fraud, then you've come to the right place. Time to kick your inner imposter to the curb and create life-changing results for you and your clients. Let's get started. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the pod, the From Imposter to Empowered podcast with me, your host, Jill. And I am so excited to be at the end of February now already, the end of February 2021, which is pretty crazy. As I'm recording this, it's the beginning of January-ish. I'm just getting a head start on my podcast episodes because I'm being master certified in NLP as of the last 2 weeks of January. And I'm super excited for this because, as everybody knows who listens to this, I'm certified in neuro-linguistic programming, which is learning the language of the subconscious mind, helping you uncover and release those stories that you may be conscious of or are subconscious so you're not aware of them, that are holding you back in business, in life, those stories that tell you that you're not good enough, whatever it may be, uncovering those, releasing them, and then rewriting them into more empowered stories. And that is the basis of pretty much all of my coaching programs, my one-to-one coaching, my group coaching, the From Imposter to Empowered program, which starts soon, which starts like next week. I'm so excited for the second round of it. And within my single sessions and my courses, that is the basis. It's releasing and rewriting those subconscious stories so you can move forward in a more empowered way. So, to get into this episode, I always fucking say this, but I swear it's going to be short. I'm going to try my best to keep it short, especially because this is a very easy to understand concept with regards to skills versus traits. And the reason why I am incorporating this into this episode is because I had this thought about a month or two ago when I was talking to a client, because she was talking about like getting into the online space and doing all these things that are seemingly hard at first. So like showing up on stories when you're not used to showing up all the time, or creating content, or creating reels, or going live, or even doing stuff with like her website or what have you. And it made me really think about the fact that we see skills and traits in the same realm in terms of being like, we should be able to be good at certain things right away. This is like a subconscious belief where if we're not immediately good at something, especially if you're really used to being good at stuff, especially if you were that all-star child or that really smart child who grew up hearing that you were really smart and you really knew how to do things, or you were organized, or whatever it may be, that identity you have for yourself, if you are really used to being good at things right off the bat, when you come into the online space and start doing this whole business stuff, or even just like running your own business in general and doing it on your own for a little while, it can be really overwhelming, and you can get those feelings of imposter syndrome because you're like, how come this isn't easy for me? How come this feels hard? And as we know, when things feel hard, we either want to stop doing them, we want to avoid them, we don't want to continue doing it, we start making it mean something about us, about our business, about our success, what have you. And again, like, this is another way for you to look at how imposter syndrome can affect you in business, because if you're so used to being good at things straight off the bat, I think I have a podcast episode where I talk about the natural genius, which is somebody who believes that if they're not automatically good at something or competent at something, that they must not be good enough, must be a fraud, etc. But the thing is you are thinking that something that is supposed to be a learned skill is an inherent trait, and that's just not the case whatsoever. It is a skill to learn how to show up on Instagram stories. It is a skill to learn how to write. I cannot stand when someone says, I'm just not good at writing, because writing is a learned skill. You did not come out of the womb and know how to write university essays or papers for school or a letter at work or whatever it is. You have had the time to continuously work on that skill. So it's actually kind of ludicrous, if you think about it, to start doing something within your online business and believe that it means that you're not good at it, or that you're not capable, or that it means something about you and your success just because you're not good at it straight off the bat. And I will also challenge you to think that what tells you that you're not good at it, because a lot of the time we're not getting a ton of feedback from our audience regarding our content and stuff like that. The only feedback we do receive is if we solicit it from somebody else, so a coach or something like that, or if we get feedback from our audience saying, this is so good, I loved this, and then we think, oh yeah, this is good. But a lot of the work that we're putting out there, people aren't necessarily grading it or saying, this was really good or whatever, again, unless it's solicited. And then you could turn around and think, well, because I didn't get a lot of comments on my post, or because of this or because of that, this must mean that I'm not a good writer. This must mean that I'm not good at marketing. This must mean that I don't know how to properly talk about pain points. You know what I mean? When in reality, who is telling you that you're not good at it? And again, this is a learned skill. Writing captions is a learned skill. I went to university and I wrote a lot of academic papers. So in the beginning of my business, I was writing a lot of stuff academically, but when it came to selling for my business on my Instagram, I had no idea how to write to make people interested in my content or to show them that I knew what I was talking about. So anyways, I want us to change the narrative on what we think is a trait versus a skill, because a trait is something that's inherent. A trait is something that is true about you and your personality. It's attached to who you are. A trait is being somebody who's joyful. A trait is being somebody who's charismatic. A trait is being somebody who knows how to work a room, who's really sociable. And traits are something that you also can improve upon. It's not like you are saddled with a trait your entire life, especially if it's something that's negative. Like, we all have relationships with people who have seen us in a certain light for a very long time. So my sister is currently living with me because of the whole house fire situation that happened in October of last year. And we were talking about how when she was a kid, she was really, really messy. And now she's really clean. But we always joke that she used to have like the dirtiest room. And she's always like, oh, you guys always see me for like how I was as a kid. And that's a frustration that we all have within ourselves, that people who know us for a very long time see a certain trait in us and are like, oh, that's how you always are. So this is not saying that traits aren't something that you can change, or traits aren't something that can be improved upon or whatever. It's just separating the skill from the trait and realizing that a lot of things you're going to do in your business are skills. A lot of things that you're going to learn how to do is a skill that you can work upon. And a skill level is usually something that has to start at basic or beginner. There is no person in this world who has perfected something the second that they did it for the first time. Nobody. No professional athletes, no business owner, no person even just showing up on video. I think I've talked about this before, but my old IG lives, if you scroll all the way down to them, I put into my Instagram TVs my old Facebook videos that I used to do, and I used to monotone, look at the camera, like not smile. It was so awkward because it was a skill that I needed to learn to be on camera. Even with podcasting, I used to have an entire script that I would read off of. And again, it used to be very monotone. I used to not do a lot of inflections with my voice. I used to be unable to record a podcast without a script in front of me. It was a learned skill to record podcasts and just sit down and talk to the mic and have something to say for an entire 20 minutes at a time. Watch, this episode's not going to be short at all. When I get talking, I just don't shut the fuck up. But essentially, everything that I've had to do in my business, learning how to work my website, making a sales page, writing copy, talking to potential clients in the DMs, sales calls, a lot of the things that are needed to run my business are skills that I have had to learn, had to acquire, and had to build upon over time. And the same thing with coaching. When I started out coaching clients, like, I wouldn't say I was bad because I had the experience of my like past jobs and I had the education, but it was a skill in terms of holding space, leaving room for silence, letting the client talk and work something out themselves, asking them powerful questions. These were skills that I had to build upon. And in the beginning, I was really hard on myself that I didn't think that I was a great coach right off the bat, because asking the questions and doing the certain techniques and stuff like that, it felt hard for me at first. It felt difficult, and I was like, oh, being a coach is a trait. Like, being a good coach is like a personality trait or whatever. Just like you would think that somebody who is sociable is just like a natural thing for them. But it was actually a learned skill. And everything in your business, if you look at it that way, instead of looking at yourself as, okay, this is something that I'm just not good at. Instead, if you saw it, okay, this is a skill that I have to build upon, instead of this is who I am. Because again, if we identify too strongly with the things that we do, we make it mean that that's all who we are, you know? So even though you're not going to say, I identify as someone who's terrible at doing a sales page, it's all those things accumulated. So it's all those things built up, like, I'm not good at the tech side of my business and it's overwhelming and I'm not going to be able to run my business the way that I want to in the future because I can't figure out the tech and I don't have the money to hire someone to help me with the tech. So someone's going to see it and they're not going to like it because the tech's not like... These are all things that we snowball, and it turns into, I'm not good enough and I'm not going to be able to run a successful business, all because you're beating yourself up about a fucking sales page. So I hope that that makes sense, that skills and traits are two completely different things, that you can start to do something and build upon it, and that is a skill. The trait is like a quality. A trait is a characteristic of you that you have, and it's more about like who you are instead of something that you're good at or something that you do. A trait is more of who you are instead of something that you do. And everything you do in your business is something that you do. If you're a coach and you're coaching, that is something that you're doing. If you are kind and warm, that is something that you are. And again, traits can also be seen in a negative light. So you can have negative traits, but who doesn't? Like, who doesn't have some toxic trait inside of them that they need to work on because, like, you're a human, you're not perfect. But I just wanted to really drive the point home that if you feel like you're not good at things in your business, or something is hard, or you've never done something before, so you're kind of afraid and leery to try it, again, it's usually because you're afraid of the feeling. So you're afraid of not being good at it, and you're afraid of beating yourself up and going down the rabbit hole and then it leading it to a self-sabotaging action. And a skill is always something that you can build upon. So a skill is always something that you can work on and consistently do. When I started out in the coaching space and I had my very first website, I did it all on my own, and I spent I don't know how many useless hours working on this fucking website because I didn't know how to work it at first. I had no idea. So I spent a lot of time learning how to build up that skill. And with Kajabi too, like, if anybody has Kajabi, it's something that you really have to become accustomed to because it's not intuitive whatsoever. It's definitely not. It's definitely not for a beginner when someone is starting out. But now it hosts all my stuff and I have it all and I know how to work it, and that has taken time. I wasn't immediately good at working with Kajabi, but if I let that stop me from creating the crappy sales pages at first, or doing this or doing that, then I just wouldn't have had the opportunity to build upon that skill. So that's what I want you to take away from today's episode, is the fact that there is a difference between skills and traits, and just because you're not good at something off the bat, it doesn't mean that you can't build upon it, because a trait is more so a characteristic, who you are, and a skill is not about who you are. A skill is something that you do, and that means it's something that can be improved upon, whether it's building a sales page or coaching your client or doing a task for a client if you're a service provider, etc. So I love you guys. Hope you love this episode. Talk to you later. Thanks so much for listening to the From Imposter to Empowered podcast. Check out the show notes to get started on your free 3-day challenge to overcome your inner imposter. Once you're done listening today, screenshot this episode and share it to your Instagram story, tagging me at YourCoachJill so I can share it on my page. See you next time.